Today on Stretch Your Kitchen, the secrets in the sauce. I'm going to share ways that will help you say goodbye to store-bought sauces and hello to flavorful feasts using simple ingredients that will help you stretch your kitchen.
Great meals don't start in the grocery store. They start in your own kitchen. I'm Erica, and I'm on a mission to prove that thoughtful cooking isn't about buying more, but about using better. Welcome to Stretch Your Kitchen.
Picture this. It was my sophomore year of college, and I was fortunate enough to spend a month in Europe. Oh my goodness, the sights and the sounds and the food. I was young, and perhaps my palate wasn't quite as developed as it is today, and it was Christmas time. I vividly remember walking around the streets of Paris with le pain, which is bread, in one hand, and a café au lait in the other. Cheap eats on a college student's budget. I also remember asking someone where the local McDonald's was. I had actually taken 5 years of French by that point, but I clearly hadn't learned a thing because the locals on the street looked at me like I was crazy. And perhaps I was. I mean, who wants to eat McDonald's while in one of the food capitals of the world, Paris, France? Well, I certainly ate my share of American comfort foods, but I also dined on everything from Wiener Schnitzel to coq au vin. One thing is for sure, the Europeans know one way to make any delicious food taste even better, and that's sauce. I don't think there was a single thing I ate in France that didn't have sauce. Duck à l'orange with its sweet and vibrant orange sauce, the classic boeuf bourguignon with its rich velvety red wine sauce, and of course, escargot. I mean, when in France, right? Well, escargot is in a beautiful parsley, garlic, butter, and wine sauce. There's a reason there is a category of 5 specific sauces called the French mother sauces. They include bechamel and velouté and hollandaise and a tomato sauce and espagnole. The foundations of these sauces are from which so many other sauce creations can be made. Yeah, the French absolutely know their sauces, and they utilize them liberally in creative cooking. But so do the Germans and the Italians. Think schnitzel covered in a rich brown gravy, or mussels arrabbiata with its acidic and herbaceous sauce made with tomatoes and parsley and basil and garlic. The secret to delicious cooking is in the sauce. And that leads me to today's Kitchen Quest.
The Kitchen Quest is where I tackle new topics each week to help you stretch your grocery dollars, minimize food waste, and turn what you already have on hand into delicious, flavorful meals.
Here's a secret that most confident home cooks know. It's not the recipe, it's the sauce. Today, we're talking about homemade sauces, not fancy restaurant sauces, not anything fussy, simple, flexible sauces you can make from what you already have on hand. These are the kind of sauces that stretch ingredients, rescue leftovers, and turn so-so dinners into something that feels more intentional. Grocery stores are full of jarred sauces, ready for the purchase, but each sauce adds to your grocery spending while really providing little in the way of bold, fresh flavors. What if I told you that with a little bit of guidance, you could create a plethora of sauces in your own kitchen using simple ingredients and a few simple guidelines? Think of this episode of Stretch Your Kitchen as your sauce blueprint, a handful of base sauce formulas that you can remix and customize with herbs, spices, and pantry ingredients to create totally different flavor profiles without buying bottled sauces that expire half used in the refrigerator. Not only will this save you money, but you will be shocked how adding sauces to any simple protein or vegetable increases flavor dramatically. You will fall in love with your own cooking by recognizing the fact that the secret really is in the sauce. So let's just dive right into it. First of all, You're probably wondering, why do sauces really matter that much? Sauces actually do three really powerful things in the kitchen. First, they add moisture, and this is really huge for leftovers. Dry chicken, add a sauce. Overcooked vegetables, sauce. Yesterday's rice, definitely sauce. Second, sauces really add layers of flavor. The fat, the acid, the salt, and the aromatics. This is where food stops tasting sort of flat and starts tasting finished. And third, and this really is the stretch your kitchen part, sauces let you cook one way, but eat many ways. For example, roast meat once, sauce twice, differently. Cook once, flavor endlessly. Here's an example. Take a pork tenderloin. While delicious with a simple herb crust, sliced and served up with your favorite sides, it sometimes can get away from us and may not be as tender as we hoped. It's a difficult protein to get just right, and nobody loves a dry pork tenderloin. However, topping it with a flavorful sauce will rescue that pork tenderloin. It'll bring it from so-so to brilliant. From tangy and sweet to rich and savory, a well-crafted sauce really can transform a simple dish into almost a culinary masterpiece. How about adding a Dijon wine sauce with some Dijon mustard, a bit of onion or shallot, a bit of heavy cream or milk, some white wine, and add a little bit of butter to add that velvety smoothness. Add that to the pork tenderloin and you've got something really special. Or maybe a red wine peppercorn sauce with some garlic and black peppercorns and red wine and parsley. Or you could even create a sweet and spicy apricot sauce with some apricot preserves or orange or even apple preserves. Add some soy sauce, some herbs like thyme or rosemary, maybe a little bit of soy sauce and some crushed red pepper for heat. Much like flavor profiles, if you've got a very basic protein, you can transform it into a delicious, moist pork dinner in three ways, all by adding sauce. This presents an entirely new way to cook creatively with variety in your kitchen. As you know, I'm not big on giving you recipes to follow, but I am huge on giving you tools to become even more confident in your ability to stretch your grocery dollars, minimize food waste, and still create flavorful food. So I'm so excited to talk with you about the secret to creating great sauces in your kitchen and ditching those grocery store bottles and cans forever. And that secret is found in my 4 simple formulas that offer the basis for creating a multitude of sauces. I'm going to call it my Base 4 formula for serving up sauces. Let me start with the most simple of sauces, or Base 1, as I'll call it. Base 1 is the simplest sauce family and probably the most underrated. At its core, it's just an oil plus an acid plus salt. That's it. An oil, an acid, and salt. Think olive oil and vinegar, or olive oil and lemon juice, or any oil and pickle brine, or oil and mustard. From here, you can take this base in, honestly, 100 directions. If you add garlic and herbs, then you're sort of in the chimichurri territory. Add Dijon and honey, and suddenly it's a vinaigrette that works on salads and chicken. Add chili flakes and citrus, and now you've got something bright and punchy for roasted vegetables or fish. This Base 1 sauce, which is just an oil, an acid, and a salt, it loves things like grilled or roasted vegetables, beans and lentils, chicken, shrimp, or fish, grain bowls and salads. I make a delicious spinach and roasted vegetable salad, and it has a beautiful lemon marjoram dressing. Marjoram, by the way, is an underrated herb. It's in the mint family, like thyme and oregano are as well. and it has a very subtle flavor, which is actually perfect for lighter dishes. For my spinach salad, I make a huge tray of roasted vegetables, things like new potatoes, red peppers, green beans, asparagus tips, cherry tomatoes. I usually add like one parsnip and a sweet potato and roast them in the oven. Any of these vegetables would work well together. You don't need to use all of them. Well, before I add them to the oven, I just toss them in olive oil and marjoram and salt. Afterwards, I remove them from the oven and allow them to cool. I add them right on top of a large bed of spinach and toss with a light olive oil, lemon juice, salt, and marjoram dressing. Sprinkle it with a little feta cheese. It is absolutely delicious. Did you hear the sauce in there? That olive oil, lemon juice, salt, and then I added marjoram. That's a base one sauce, and it adds so much to this delicious dish. You've probably used base one sauces in creating just simple vinaigrettes in your own kitchen. But imagine the variety when you can suddenly start to think about any oil and any acid and any salt, and then mix it up with those herbs or other additions. That's a base one victory right there, and it will add so much flavor to your food. Now, my base two sauce is a creamy or dairy-based sauce. This family of sauces, the base two sauces, include things like yogurt sauce or a sour cream sauce or a creme fraiche or a cream-based sauce. And here's the basic, easy formula for a base two sauce. It's any creamy dairy, any acid, and any salt. That's the base formula. It's a creamy dairy, an acid, and a salt. From there, the personality of the sauce comes from whatever you add. Think about it. If I take a basic cream plus acid plus salt, I can then mix it up with garlic and lemon, and that becomes a bright, maybe Mediterranean-style sauce. To that cream, acid, salt base, I could add some ranch seasoning or some herbs, and then I've got a classic familiar sauce. I could also add chipotle or smoked paprika. Then I've got a bold and spicy sauce. Think barbecue. I could use that base formula of a cream, an acid, and a salt and throw in some curry powder or cumin, and I've got a warm and earthy sauce. These sauces are so good because they really balance out spicy foods. They can also stretch a small amount of protein because they're thicker sauces and they really add to the bulk of the meal. They also make vegetables feel really indulgent. My base two sauces are absolutely perfect for like tacos and wraps or even roasted potatoes with a nice creamy base two sauce. Leftovers do really well by applying a base two sauce. And of course, they're definitely great for dipping sauces for anything crispy like fried shrimp or chicken nuggets, fried fish. And if you've ever ate fish and chips, you know that a base two sauce is essential to the meal. Here's a favorite in my home. I actually make a Middle Eastern kofta. It's really just like a spicy meatball, and oftentimes it's formed on some kind of stick. You could use a kebab stick or anything like that. And it's super easy to make. It also takes meatballs in an entirely different direction. When I make my kofta, I just add cumin, cinnamon, garlic, some cardamom, cloves, salt, and pepper. But really any warming spices would do here, whatever you have on hand. I form them into meatballs, but then I sort of wrap the meatball around the stick. That makes it feel kind of fancy. And then I sear the meatballs. And I like to finish them in the oven. It keeps them moist and tender on the inside, but maintains that great crisp sear on the outside. And when the kofta is finished, we dip it in a perfect tzatziki sauce made with yogurt. Yes, a tzatziki is a base two sauce. I make my tzatziki the same way probably many people do. Greek yogurt, some shredded or grated cucumber, lemon juice or white vinegar, whatever I have on hand at that time, some minced garlic, couple tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and some salt and pepper. And then you finish that sauce with delicious chopped mint or dill, or both if you have them. Can you identify the base in this sauce? Did you hear the yogurt, the lemon juice, and the salt? That's a base 2 sauce. You can serve a kofta with some hummus and sliced cucumbers and some pita chips, and you've got a Middle Eastern meal with very basic ingredients. It's so simple and so delicious. Here's a bonus. Creamy base 2 sauces store beautifully in the refrigerator, which makes them perfect for make-ahead cooking. So let's briefly recap. We've got our base sauce number 1, which at its core is just an oil, an acid, and a salt. Then we got our base sauce number 2, which is a creamy dairy-based sauces. The base formula is simply a creamy dairy, an acid, and a salt. So let's move on to our base 3 sauces. This is where weeknight cooking really levels up. These are the pan sauces. So a pan sauce happens after you cook a specific protein in a pan, like chicken or pork chops or sausage or shrimp. You just don't wash the pan and you use what's in there. That becomes a pan sauce. The basic structure of this base 3 pan sauce is fat that's left in the pan. Add an aromatic like garlic or shallot, a liquid like broth, wine, cream, or even pasta water, and then an optional finish, which I love, which is butter. It creates a velvety, creamy texture. You could also use mustard as a finish or additional herbs. So again, the base structure of a pan sauce is just fat that's left in a pan, an aromatic, liquid, and an optional finish. You see that sticky brown stuff in the bottom of the pan? That is flavor. You deglaze the pan with liquid and scrape up all those brown bits. Then you let it simmer for a minute or two, and suddenly you have a sauce that tastes so intentional, even if dinner was completely improvised. When you change up the liquid, you change the vibe of a pan sauce. White wine makes it pretty light and classic. Add broth to deglaze or mustard, and you've got savory and cozy. Add cream, and you've got rich and comforting. Lemon juice at the end, bright and fresh. Think chicken piccata, one of my favorites. You brown the chicken in the pan, and then you use all of those brown bits because you deglaze the pan with white wine. You add herbs like parsley, and then a salty finish in the form of capers. You end by whisking in a pat of butter for a velvety texture. Easy peasy. Pan sauces are the fastest way to stop feeling like you're just cooking meat and instead you're preparing an entree. I love a pan sauce. So that covers 3 of the 4 in, again, what I'm calling it my base 4 formula for serving up sauces. So let's move on to base number 4. Base number 4 are probably the most familiar, tomato-based sauces. You know, tomato sauce, when it's homemade, it doesn't have to mean all day long simmering. At its simplest, a base 4 or a tomato-based sauce is just this: tomatoes, and canned are great. I often use crushed or whole tomatoes, or even diced tomatoes when making my base 4 sauces. So at its simplest form, again, a base 4 sauce is tomatoes, a fat, some aromatics, and a salt. That's it. Tomatoes, a fat, some aromatics, and some salt. Think of the tomato sauce base as a very neutral canvas. From there, you could add things. You could add basil and garlic, and all of a sudden you've got a very Italian-style sauce. To that base, you could add cumin, chili, and cinnamon. and you've got a warm and spiced sauce. You could add to the tomato base soy sauce or miso, and you've got a very deep and savory sauce. Or you could add cream or butter, and you've got a very smooth and mellow sauce. This sauce works way beyond pasta. It works with beans. It works on roasted vegetables. It can become a base for soups and stews. You can use it over eggs or as a base for an egg dish. Think shakshuka. I really enjoy making shakshuka, and it goes right along with my love of eggs, which is something we're going to be talking about next week. Well, a shakshuka is just a base for sauce, a tomato sauce. And then you add additional seasonings or spices. In this situation, you're adding some coriander, some garlic, some sweet paprika, some ground cumin, some red pepper flakes. And then you want to add some herb like mint or parsley leaves, as well as maybe a chopped green or red pepper. But really, these are optional. Now, you can use any combination of these ingredients, but really those warming spices are the heart and soul of a tomato base for sauce when used for a shakshuka. Then you just crack eggs into the sauce, put the whole thing in the oven, and it is a delicious, satisfying meal. And it really satisfies my love of using eggs as a great source of protein. Again, I'm going to share more about that with you next week. The real magic with a base for sauce or a tomato-based sauce is that one pot of a base tomato sauce can be turned into multiple meals just by how you finish it. You could create a huge pot of that tomato base and divide it up and season it differently. And you've got a variety of flavor profiles for a variety of dishes. So that, in a nutshell, is my base 4 formula for serving up sauces. Again, base 1, an oil, an acid, a salt. Base 2, a yogurt or a creamy dairy with an acid and a salt. Base 3 is the fat that's left in the pan, an aromatic, liquid, and an optional finish, like butter or mustard. And base 4, at its simplest form, is just tomatoes, fat, usually in the form of some sort of oil like olive oil. Add some aromatics and some salt. But each of these are just bases, and they will allow you to create a variety of creative sauces for your future meals. Now, instead of memorizing sauces, you can just think about these bases and then think in flavor directions. If you want something bright and fresh, you can add some citrus, some herbs, or some vinegar. If you're in the mood for something warm and cozy, add some butter or cream or garlic. Do you want to add some smoky to your meal? Add some paprika or chipotle or some charred aromatics. If you want something savory, go soy sauce, miso, anchovy, or parmesan. When you understand the direction that you want to go, you can build a sauce without measuring or second-guessing yourself, just by choosing from these 4 bases and then mixing it up. This is truly creative cooking, and it is the stretch your kitchen way. You can use what you have on hand along with some base sauce formulas and create delicious food for you and your family. Now, if there's one takeaway from today, I hope it's this. You don't need more recipes. You just need a few good sauce bases. Once you have those, your kitchen becomes flexible. Leftovers become opportunities, and dinner stops feeling like a daily problem that you almost have to solve from scratch. Remember, the secret is in the sauce. Why buy store-bought when homemade with ease tastes so much better and is so much better for your grocery budget? When one ingredient, like a can of tomatoes, or one bottle of inexpensive white wine, or one pint of half and half or heavy cream, or one lemon can stretch so far, you will truly be stretching your grocery dollars, minimizing food waste, and serving up delicious food for you and your family. And now it's time for this week's culinary concern.
The weekly culinary concern allows me the opportunity to answer your questions and share more ways to help you stretch your kitchen. If you're feeling inspired, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Visit stretchyourkitchen.com and please follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Stretch Your Kitchen for more tips, tools, and helpful takeaways to minimize waste and maximize flavor.
This week, here's a question you might have. If I don't have a recipe, how can I be sure my homemade sauce will taste good? Well, here are some pointers to get you started as you work to build confidence in creating homemade sauces. First, layer seasoning. Don't dump it in. You can always add more, but once you've added too much, it's more difficult to balance out the flavors. Here's an idea. Season very lightly at the beginning, and then taste and season midway through preparing the sauce, and then adjust the seasoning at the end. Here's another idea. Acid is your secret weapon. If something tastes flat, it usually needs acid. A lot of people probably think it needs more salt, but usually it's calling for an acid. Try adding lemon zest or lemon juice, or a splash of vinegar like balsamic or white wine vinegar, a splash of wine, or even a splash of pickle juice. Adding a touch of additional acid is sometimes all you need to turn fine into fantastic. Tip number 3, simmer. Simmering builds depth of flavor. Even 10 to 15 minutes of a gentle simmer really helps those flavors develop, and it allows sauces to reduce a little bit, intensifying that flavor. Another idea, balance a sauce with a pinch of sweet. Tomatoes, wine, and vinegar all benefit from a tiny pinch of sugar or a little drizzle of honey, or even a bit of caramelized onion. If your sauce tastes a bit sharp, sweetness will balance that out. Here's another. Finish with something fresh. Fresh herbs, or a little bit of butter, or a touch of lemon zest, a drizzle of olive oil over the top, or a bit of freshly grated Parmesan. Those fresh finishing touches add aroma and body. Now, texture matters as much as flavor in a sauce. If your sauce is too thin, maybe simmer it a little longer so it can reduce a bit more, or perhaps add a slurry. I add slurries often to my sauces. That's just a little bit of flour and water whisked into the sauce, and it really adds a nice thickness to it. Is it too thick? Maybe add a splash of broth or pasta water or milk and whisk that in to thin it out just a little bit. If it's too chunky, maybe blend a small part of it or all of it. Immersion blenders are great for this. Here's my last tip on how to know if your sauce tastes good. Taste it like it's a dish, not an ingredient. Taste it and then ask yourself, would I eat this with a spoon? If yes, it will be great on food. If not, it probably needs a little something. And remember, if something tastes a bit flat, it usually doesn't need more salt. It might just need a little hint of acid. With these little tips, I am confident that you will be building flavorful sauces in no time. So let's move on to today's Triple T takeaway.
Each week, I'll leave you with my Triple T takeaway. That's tips, tools, or tasks to begin implementing the Stretch Your Kitchen lifestyle. These simple takeaways prove that thoughtful cooking isn't about buying more, but about using better.
This week, I have a tool and a task for you. First, the tool. I've created a sauce cheat sheet for you. I've added it to stretchyourkitchen.com. Feel free to download it and keep it on hand when creating those from-scratch sauces. It will help remind you of how to create sauces from the bases we discussed in today's episode. It's a free download on stretchyourkitchen.com. Sometimes just having a little reminder on hand is all you need to build confidence in the kitchen. And now, the task. This week, I want you to try making one sauce and using it in at least 2 different ways. Maybe it's just a basic tomato sauce that you will alter based on some of the flavor profiles we discussed today. Or perhaps you can create a cream sauce base and then split it up and create one spicy and one savory. Then use a protein that you have on hand and enjoy 2 meals from one base preparation. That's how you stretch your kitchen without stretching yourself thin. Just remember, the secret's in the sauce. In no time at all, you will be creating an incredible variety of meals while stretching your grocery dollars, minimizing food waste, and using what you have on hand to create spectacular sauces. That's all for this week's episode of Stretch Your Kitchen. Next week, I know exactly how to explain the exact way to make the most of your, you guessed it, eggs. You'll see how this one simple protein offers so many ways for you to stretch your kitchen.
Thank you for listening to Stretch Your Kitchen. If you enjoyed this episode or feel that it would be useful to someone else, please leave a review on Podchaser and follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Stretch Your Kitchen. And remember, thoughtful cooking isn't about buying more, but about using better.